Hello, class. This week is the beginning of week 4, or if you're watching this later in the week, the middle of the week 4. And while you are having your conferences with me and working on your assignments, I wanted you to pay attention to the difference between revising and editing. So I'm not going to read the PowerPoint to you word for word, but what I want you to do is I want you to think about the idea that you need to read your draft as a reader would, not as a writer. As a writer, if you're reading over something, then you might skip something. You might miss a mistake, right? You might know what you mean, but your reader might not always know what you mean. So you need to think about your draft in terms of what readers will see. Revision and editing are different. So, revision is looking at your draft with a new perspective, a critical eye, looking to make sure that you've covered everything from the assignment sheet in as much depth and as much detail as possible so that the reader will understand what you're trying to accomplish. For example, I'll be reading all of your papers. I don't know everything that you've done in terms of thinking about your topics. I don't know everything about your topics. So if it's something that you are going to talk about, for example, a show or a kind of artwork, then you need to explain what those are. You need to presume that the person reading it isn't going to know, right? So take a new perspective when you are revising. Editing is looking for precision and style, grammar, those things. So once you've done the revision, then you can edit before you submit your assignment. So I've given you some things to think about in this week's lecture about the differences between revision and editing. So here are some things you can think about. Are you motivating your reader? Did you orient the audience? Did you write a concise abstract of your thesis? So, um, in terms of the proposal, it's what is your research question, right? You don't really have a thesis at this point, but you do have a main point for your proposal, which is what your research question is. And so, did you fulfill the purpose and expectations of the assignment? Did you communicate what it is you intend to argue or the point you want to get across? So, those are some things to really think about. And then the rest of the PowerPoint for this part 1 goes over how to do different revision exercises. So if, for example, I said you need to really think about audience, then focus on this revising for audience. So it would be, um, sorry. Oh, so you want to look over all of the things that you can do and then come to this spot, right? Train yourself to spot sentences and things that need revision. Anything in passive voice, it's not a requirement that you change those, but in Word in particular, it will tell you if something's in passive voice, and you can kind of restate that. And then just some things to look out in terms of grammar, and then you can move on to part 2. Part 2 is really setting the stage. This is an old PowerPoint, but it's still useful. It's setting the stage for stage 2, for finding sources. So I've kind of gone over how to find credible sources, what they mean, okay? So you can kind of get an idea. And the questions are really the best part. So when you are looking at any source, it doesn't matter what it is, you need to look at these questions and think to yourself about whether you can find the answers. For example, if something hasn't been updated in a long time, since 2012 or 2000, it might not be the best. And then I've given you some examples to look over. So um, you don't have to click these links because I provided screenshots for you. So go through this and see if you can kind of figure out the answers to see what's credible and what's not credible. And then I've given you some help about how to use keywords, how to brainstorm for different things. And then this last one is a brand new slide about our LibGuide that you have access to in Blackboard. The LibGuide goes over all of the different parts about how to find things in the library. So if you are in Blackboard and you see you have content, course materials, LibGuide is here, and it will pull up the LibGuide for our class. And so you have things like you can ask the librarian, there are quick links here, but really what you want are all of these tabs in this menu bar. Okay, this will help you find articles. It gives you a video to watch on how to do that, how to find books, the differences between scholarly and popular sources, which is very important that you look over and learn, how to evaluate websites, although you don't have to use this just for websites. You can use this for any source, because the more questions that you can answer, the better you can evaluate whether you want to use that source or not. And then finally, it does give you a little bit of help on your works cited. So you can always chat with the librarian, or you can email our librarian. Our librarian is Samantha McNeely. She's very helpful. She put this all together for us. So don't hesitate to reach out and ask her while you're going through and looking for sources. In the meantime, if you have any questions about either part of the lecture for this week, please don't hesitate to email me, to come in and chat with me on Skype on Wednesday, and I hope you guys have a great week.